Okay, so welcome to the Zodiac Lounge, your friendly neighborhood basement speakeasy where anything goes and nobody gets canceled. We're here on Midsummer. If you're seeing this on Monday night, this episode was pre-recorded on Saturday evening because one Monday a month, I have to attend private mentoring for several hours with Lisa Williams. Look her up, amazing medium, and she is training me in platform work. This will be going on one Monday a month until the end of the year. They're 6 months ahead of me, and I hope I do well with it. But thank you all for coming. And I have a great guest for you tonight, High Priest Alexander Cabot. And he has a book coming out. It should be released in the autumn, but we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about a lot of things, particularly the Wiccan community in New York and Alexander's amazing journey throughout his whole life. So, welcome, Alexander, and thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for having me. It's not the usual afternoon Saturday routine, but it's great. Usually it's in the evenings.
Yeah,
I have my own podcast, and I know what it entails to carry that through.
yeah.
So
So your
kudos to
podcast,
you.
your podcast is called.
This Old Witch. It's every other Saturday. We just had last Saturday we interviewed Wendy Rule.
Oh wow.
And this upcoming Saturday will be Miss Aida, the no nonsense voodoo practitioner from Detroit,
Oh
who
man.
has about 4 books out with Lucky Mojo and Wiser.
Wow. That's going to be
So
a great show. I can't wait.
that is going to be a great show.
Can't wait to
And
attend.
she's a personal friend of mine because we have, a lot of things in common. She's not only a hoodoo, a hoodoo practitioner, but she's Cuban.
Mhm.
She's half Cuban, half Greek, and she's nourished her Cuban side for all her life.
Mhm.
And she has a lot of knowledge in Santeria and Palo. And we have that common denominator. And also, she's a registered nurse in the ER, and I'm in the OR. So it's great.
Oh, cool.
That relationship that we've
Mhm.
mustered up.
Yeah, it's funny. How long ago did you meet?
We met through Judica Illis.
Uh-huh.
As you know, she's an author as well and a personality within the New York community. So we met through her because she works tightly with her, Judica being one of the editors for Wiser.
Hmm.
And she was introduced. She introduced her to me, and that's how we clicked. Well, I didn't know she was Cuban, and it all started that
Oh
we
yeah.
gave each other, passed each other some wartime sort of stories. So it was great.
Yeah, those are fun to share. So before we start talking about your book, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? You have a very fascinating story, and I'd love for you to share it with our viewers.
Well, first of all, my name is Alexander de la Rue, and I'm actually Cuban born in Havana. I came to this country when I was 16 months old, and first arrived in Miami, which was our Ellis Island. There was an old colonial building, it's still there. It's owned by the Cuban American Foundation, and it was supposed to be the refuge for all Cuban refugees, political refugees coming into this country
Mhm.
would need to make their pit stop in Miami, and then from there go on to where their sponsor was. And my grandfather lived in New York City, so we were able to come to Miami and Miami to New York, and I was about 16 months old. So the only Cuba I know is Miami. I don't have
It's close.
any memory of Cuba of
Mhm.
yesteryear or the pre revolutionary
Mhm.
tactics that were going on at that time. So my book is coming out definitely. It's going to be in maybe September, October. I
Perfect
know
time
that
for harvest.
yes, indeed. And also my birthday is
Oh,
coming
when's
out.
your birthday?
I'm a map, and I'm actually
Oh,
autumn
wow.
equinox.
Oh my God, that's
I'm
awesome.
on the autumn equinox, which is the 21st of September.
Uh-huh. Oh,
So,
terrific.
so I'm looking forward to having this COVID baby, as I called it, because I started right during the pandemic, actually at the advent of the pandemic in April. And it went throughout the whole year, and then even more because the details, the
Oh, yeah.
endorsements, the forward, the
Editing.
afterward, yeah, the technical editing, and
Yeah,
also the copy editing. So
absolutely.
it's a lot of work that goes into a book. I just this morning I had a massive headache because I had to go to the graduation for the new doctors
Hmm.
in Manhasset, New York, in Long Island,
Hmm.
and then from Long Island come back home,
Wow.
crash, wake up early in the morning, meet with my editor, and work on two major chapters.
Wow.
So it was by the time I went back to bed, it was about maybe noon time.
Mhm.
And it took something and crashed, but I'm happy and lucky to be here with everyone
Yeah.
and to tell my story that I am a Reverend High Priest for the Cabot Kent Hermetic Temple in Salem, Massachusetts, as well as the ambassador for the tradition in Brazil.
Wow.
And I have been able to acquire that title because of my contributions to the community in Salem and to the tradition. Obviously, Laurie Cabot saw the potential for me to carry
Mhm.
her legacy as well. So, hence the why my pen name is Alexander Cabot.
Mhm.
And I wanted it to differentiate myself from um, my professional side and work, and so I opted from not using my real name and using Cabot for all of this, and it was not intentional. I was not seeking, the recognition. Some people think that I'm her grandson, thank you, or I am her son. I'm not related.
Mhm.
I'm spiritually related to her. I
The
went through
spiritual bloodline. You connected through the
exactly that
spiritual bloodline.
spiritual bloodline.
Now,
So
are you able to be out of the broom closet in your Monday through Friday job, or do you just
I'm
keep those very separate?
I hence why I use the name.
Mm-hmm.
I'm allowed. First of all, within the tradition, she allows you when you're a third degree
Mm-hmm.
initiated and ordained Cabot witch to use the name. So I used it primarily to differentiate myself from my profession
Gotcha.
because
Smart
I
move.
didn't want to have the conceptions and I work with a lot of very prominent surgeons in
Hmm.
Manhattan, and I didn't want them to think that I'm going loony or delusional because of my ideology. So I wanted to carry to label myself with that with her, and also I carry her legacy.
Hmm.
So hence why my pen name Alexander Cabot, and now I'm known publicly as Alexander Cabot, and so I am proud of that because I'm trying to bring the word of the old religion, bring also the representation of our gods and goddesses.
Hmm.
Let them know about the balance. Let them know about self healing, the light within us. It is very important in this mundane world that we live in, and the dogmas and the tenets that we some of under the Abrahamic faiths that have those types of programs. I think that it hinders or uh, makes it little much the picture much more little for them to see the broader picture of the universe
Hmm.
in its entirety. So we as seers, occultists, magicians, witches, you name it, we see it. We're free thinkers, and in today's world, it's much more broader. The religion of Wicca and everything else, and paganism itself as the umbrella term has grown.
It
And it's
has.
now an amalgamation of sorts.
Right.
And
Now
we're happy about that.
we've both been around a while, and we talked in our prep conversation. Well, it was really just a getting to know you, and let's just hammer out what we're going to feature in this interview. And we talked about how Wicca and the entire New York spiritual community has changed over the years. And I can remember way back to the 70s and 80s, it was oddly more accepted than it is now among people who weren't familiar with it. It just seems that things are kind of getting a little bit more judgmental among the majority of people. Um, and I've also found, and this is just my experience, I'm not suggesting that everyone is experiencing it the same way, because I've been socially distancing way before COVID. I My work is so exhausting that I prefer to spend a lot of time with myself. But it just seems that now some of the newer members of the Wiccan or pagan community are a little bit more prone to being judgmental and canceling people left and right for not walking in lockstep. Do you find that? Or
I
do you?
yes, I'm having a podcast, being a public persona,
Mhm.
having the social media. Yes, I've experienced the cancel culture, the entitlement. I've what's the other the TikTok witches that we have
Yeah.
today. So I understand that that is part of the generation, the evolution. Yes, for us,
Mhm.
we were kids. Well, I was when I saw the pioneers, such great pioneers in the city, like Eddie Basinski and
Mhm.
Herman Slater, Lady Rhea, Carol Berzone, Valerie Curtis. So I knew those people were important because they were part of that movement.
Mm. Well, we were
And
young and fearless back then, and we had also gone through the 60s and 70s kind of in front lines on the our own social revolution to
yes,
pry us out of the so
the
we were kind of
LGBT
fearless.
community owes a lot to what our forefathers fought,
Hmm.
and they were beaten up, and bloods. It was horrible. The prejudice, the hatred against the gay people.
Hmm.
So yes, we see that evolution, and today we should be thankful for what we have, but we see the, I guess, dichotomy of this cancel culture, the generational technological area that we live in. And yes, we see the entitlement, we see the cancel culture,
Hmm.
and just the the not honoring your elders, not
Well,
thinking
how many
that.
people know their elders? I mean, I was thinking as I was listening to you just now that what is desperately needed is authentic leadership. But with the internet being what it is and TikTok being what it is, and everybody, how many thousands of friends can I get, today? Um, there doesn't seem to be any reference or reverence, either one.
You
Uh,
got it. That's
yeah.
exactly right. Because today it's all about the numbers, how much followers you
Mhm.
have, or if you're a what do they call those? Oh, I forgot the term they use. Influencers.
Oh
So
God.
if you're an influencer or
I
the
know.
number of followers, and that's onto your stardom, or you are knowledgeable
Mhm.
and you have this wisdom. No, the wisdom you acquire with years of struggle, of learning, of
Training,
experience, life's
discipline,
own mission.
having shit blow up in your face and walking away with a few powder burns when you make a mistake. But now it's like
Yes.
somebody watches one episode of Charmed and then suddenly they are identifying as a witch. And then they go out there and they present themselves as that. And it's like you have no idea the hard work that goes into learning, the discipline. It's at its fastest, it's a 3-year program, 3 years and 3 days for people to be trained, and there's a lot that goes on with
Not
it.
only that, I would say yes, the conventional 3 years
Hmm.
of first, second, and third degree.
Hmm.
But for me, I started with Laurie Cabot when I decided to go back and honor my Celtic heritage
Hmm.
and or Celtic bloodline that I do have, and
Hmm.
also my spiritual DNA. And so I went to what better person than Laurie Cabot in Salem,
Hmm.
Massachusetts. So I did go back to her and started my tutelage under
Hmm.
her from 2009 till 2014 that I was ordained and initiated.
Okay. Let's
So
talk about
you
your Celtic bloodline, your Celtic, because you told me a fascinating story about tracing your ancestry
Well,
from
tracing
Cuba
the
to Spain.
ancestry not only is about what is it, ancestry.com or the other one. It's not about putting your saliva in a
Right.
sputum container and shipping it off. Yes, that's wonderful. Years ago, I remember about 25, 30 years ago, it
Mhm.
cost about, I think, $10,000 to have a
Wow.
DNA run. But nowadays, it's like, what, $65 online? And so
Hmm.
it's wonderful to have that and trace your lineage. So I was surprised to see not only do I have the Celtic, but I also have the Semite. I'm actually not the also, I knew I had Sephardic,
Hmm.
but I didn't know I had Ashkenazi.
Oh,
So
wow.
I had both, and I have also the Celtic. Not I thought through the Iberian Peninsula,
Hmm.
but I have 3% of Scottish. Go figure. I
Damn.
was I was blown away
Yeah.
when they presented the results, and it was 3% Scottish for me. But what I do know is that in my mother's bloodline, I do have the Galicia,
Hmm.
or we would phrase them Gallegos, and
Hmm.
that's Gaelic, and
Hmm.
that's a province in Spain, which was once the Iberian Peninsula. And if people know their history in Celtic lore, they would know that Iberian Peninsula, all the British Isles, and onto Eastern Europe was once the huge
Hmm.
Celtic Empire.
Yeah, I had
And
participated in a few archaeological digs, and I was reading up on a lot of the discoveries that they made before I went on this one particular trip, and they found Celtic art all along the Mediterranean into
correct,
Eastern Europe. And I'm like, okay, so that
correct.
tells me a little more about that. And also, when Julius Caesar wrote Bello Gallica, which is about the Gallic Wars, they had people that infiltrated the Druids in England, and they were there for a few years actually, just sort of mingling in, getting to learn their customs, their religion, and everything else. The joke was on the Romans though, because the Druids fought to the death and didn't give up a single bit of anything. But the people that had
Absolutely.
and the people that had infiltrated were able. There's a hand fasting ritual in that piece of work
Correct.
that yeah. So it just amazes me that this is the only eyewitness account of the Druids, and it came from the Romans. So I think they kind of got
Hence,
around a
hence
lot more
why
than
we
than we
have
think.
the ideology of Wicca today.
Hmm.
Obviously, Wicca is a Anglo-Saxon word that means witchery, witcher, and means a male cunning folk.
Hmm.
So,
Or to bend. I heard that it
yeah,
meant to
shape
bend or to
shifting,
shape. Right.
to
Yeah.
shape shift.
Hmm.
But it is a witcher, and it's male practitioner.
Hmm.
So I don't think that Gardner wanted it to be colloquialized under that name. It just developed to
Yeah.
be Wicca. But
Uh-huh.
we owe not only to Selena Fox. She was not really the major force behind getting it federally recognized.
Hmm.
It was actually, believe it or not, back in the 68 was Yvonne and Gavin Frost.
Hmm.
So they were responsible to having it federally recognized as a religion in 85 or 86, I believe.
Hmm.
And eventually it did in the 80s. But our pioneers are the one who set those trailblazers were the ones that really did the work
Yeah,
to
well, people
get
like
this.
Sybil Leek. I mean, she was a
Yeah.
maverick. She was like pretty much "fuck you, I'm a witch," and she was
No, and the
all
old
over
and
TV.
to actually own and to state the old religion,
Right.
that it's not paganism was still around and how they tried to abolish it, but it's been an amalgamation
Mm-hmm.
of folklore within many families that kept
Mm-hmm.
certain traditions, many of the cultures.
Well, it was
So I
hijacked too by many ancient religions. I mean, I was raised Roman Catholic, and if you ever saw the Roman Catholic funerary mass, that's a Wiccan circle. Okay. They had to
correct.
appropriate the holidays, the gestures, the words, the incense, the directions, clockwise
Yeah.
or counterclockwise around the coffin in order to get their membership drive beefed up because they had to get people who were not Christian or Jewish to convert. And there's a
And
lot
look,
of that.
and how magical is, and that's actually paganism, is when you see under the Abrahamic faiths of, let's say, Italy, that they have processions.
Oh, yeah.
So they bring out the saint
Hmm.
and they have total reverence, and they preside throughout the streets. So that
Hmm.
procession is magical.
Hmm.
So those are customary things that go way back. It's a chain reaction, from Mesopotamia to
Hmm.
the Egyptians, to the Greeks, the Romans. So I think that it's about humanity, and we have to own the fact. I always say, and I stress that religion is man-made. It's only
Hmm.
a mere interpretation of our spirituality
Right.
within humanity,
Hmm.
seeking where do we come from? Why are we here? These are the questions that even our primitive men were asking. So
Absolutely.
so yeah, and so going back to New York, I think that the development of the community has grown, and it's wonderful. We have Lady Rhea that does her New York City meetups at the
Hmm.
Old Immigrant,
Hmm.
the Old Enchantments, which is
Right.
called Immigrant today.
Hmm.
So we have those wonderful meetups, and we still have remnants of the like. I have my own reservations with enchantments, but there's enchantments today, and there's still Sticks and Bones, I think, on St. Christopher,
Hmm.
a really wonderful new age shop, and I believe the owners don't live in New York, but that shop has been around for like 25 years, I believe.
Yeah. Stick, Stone, and Bone, I believe it's called. Is
Six
that right?
six
Yeah, yeah.
phones. Yeah, yes,
Stick, Stone, and
exactly.
Bone. Now, I remember when Herman had his store on Grove Street, and then he moved to Brooklyn with the Warlock shop, and then came back to 19th Street. But I remember that little store on Grove Street, right off 7th Avenue, and I used to sneak in
That is
and stay very
wonderful.
peripheral and just buy my things. And then he chatted me up. If anyone here doesn't know Herman, you should have. He was this enormous guy. He, he could
Not
be
enormous in
terrifying.
personality, because he
Exactly.
was not a huge, he was not a huge guy.
Oh, well, I'm
Um,
5'2", so everybody's enormous to me. Yeah. But I just remember him being really tall and very imposing. And he looks at me and goes, "You don't blink, do you?" It's like, absolutely not. So he was just astonishing. I mean, he was the nicest person once you get past that gruff exterior. And Eddie was magic. Um, his partner, Eddie, his business partner and his partner in life, Eddie, was truly magical. He
truly,
was,
truly magical.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
So in my book, in one of the chapters is called Magical Child,
Oh,
and it
cool.
it, it is totally dedicated to Herman, Lady Rhea, Eddie Basinski, all the characters. The New York's most famous grimoire, the Necronomicon,
Hmm.
and how it developed.
Tell
That's
us
one
a
of the
little bit
things.
about that.
Well, this goes way back to I actually had a silver gilded book in my hands because my cousin at the time, this was about 81,
Hmm.
he ordered it from
Hmm.
the Magical Child.
Yeah.
So they were gold gilded, which was a more expensive, obviously,
Right.
and then there was silver gilded
Mhm.
books, and they were leather bound. And this was the brainstorm, the inspiration from Lovecraft, H.P.
Mhm.
Lovecraft, and then Herman came up with the idea with Malcolm Mills, Peter Levenda, um, and there was a lady involved. I forgot her name. Um, Peter Levenda was Simon, right?
Yeah.
Yes. And there was also Wasserman as well. So it was down in the basement of the Magical Child. So this was the development of the book. The idea came to life, and they started making it this fictional book, but it created its own entity, becoming what it was then later on colloquialized as New York City's grimoire,
Mhm.
own grimoire. So kudos to all of them, because
Yeah.
they that was I never forget. I'll never forget. And the little ad in the back of the page, that was like naughty. Oh my God, the wonderful grimoire, you know? So because at that time we just had pencil and paper, and we would just
Right.
write down from the Book of Shadows from our high priestess. So
Mhm.
these are the stories that I leave in
Mhm.
my book, and also Lady Rhea, her how she became the Candle Queen, New York City's own Candle Queen, and so the whole book and how my adventures,
Mhm.
because at that time before the 90s, where that staple of Club Kid was given,
Mhm.
we were our own club kids,
Oh
and
yeah.
we would head towards Danceteria, and then in 1983 we had Limelight. So in my
Mhm.
book, I uh, go the memoirs of myself heading towards the old stomping grounds of the Magical Child, and venturing in to see what was new in literature. And
Mhm.
I remember being by the book section, and I was reading, and then some other kid came in and followed suit. And remember Herman looked at him and said, "What do you think this is? The New York City Public Library? Get the effing out!" And there was a sign overhead that said "buy or buy."
Right.
So this is
Mhm.
Herman was a character. So I thought he was referring to me, but he wasn't. I think he always took a liking to me. So it was
Mhm.
wonderful relationship in my younger years to
Mhm.
experience the Magical Child, Herman, and Eddie. And
Yeah.
today,
Yeah.
we owe them. New York City wouldn't be what with the Wiccan or pagan
Mhm.
community if it wasn't for these great pioneers.
Good.
Obviously, Lady Rhea and Carol, who
Mhm.
fought with them, enchantments for so many years.
Yeah. 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 That I remember when they broke out and opened enchantments. Um,
Exactly. In the
yeah.
82, yeah, 82, they broke
Mhm.
out and from Magical Child, and opened up their store.
Yeah, and they had
Absolutely.
the very first annual witches' ball in the garden.
In the
And
garden
then
with the
that
cat.
tradition went on and on and on. And when it hit like 17, because at that point, Rhea had went about her own way. She was raising her child, and then she opened another store. But raising a kid takes a lot of attention. So I don't think she was ever in retirement, but she did
No.
pay attention to her obligations and fulfill a lot of those. And then somehow, I don't know how it happened over a period of years, the ball got ran into the ground. And do you remember Artie from Video Haven?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. So it landed in his lap and he hated hosting it. So he said to me, "You've got to take this. You've got to take this. I can't stand it anymore." And he gave it to me. And so then the following summer, yeah, that's how, because he gave it to me after he did the 17th or the 16th. annual. And then he said, "You're going to take it over." I asked Carol if that was okay. She gave me her blessing. So I figured, okay, so I have like a year to get this plan. And then in July, I had my store, the Zodiac Lounge on 96th Street. And this darling young woman comes in wanting a reading. Her name was Bruna. She was great because I shoot from the hip when I read. There's nothing sugar coated. It's just, this is your life, take it or leave it. And she's, no one's read for me like this besides Ria. And Ria and I lost contact with each other because I was traveling a lot prior to opening that store. I traveled all through the 80s, all over the world. And I says, "Ria who?" She says, Lady Ria. I says, "Give me her number." So I called her and I said, "Ria, do you want your ball back?" And she's like, "Who the fuck is this?" I said, "It's Anthony Kronos." And she's like, "Oh my God." So then she came down to visit and then we co-hosted. I just had her as a surprise person the next year. We just sort of like brought her on stage and it was like thunderous applause. And it was so nice to see her take that community back and put her influence back into it and to put herself out there once again as an elder, which you discuss in your book and also in our conversation. Your assumption of your eldership and what the responsibilities are.
The
How
response.
do
So
you?
my mission is that exactly what it is. It's
Mhm,
teaching those that we need that reverence towards our elders
mhm.
and also our ancestors. So this is, without them, we are nothing.
Absolutely.
We the magic. Where does it come from? It comes from our ancestors. It
Mhm,
comes from the earth. The earth is a total burial ground.
mhm.
So we are standing on the shoulders of our elders.
Absolutely.
So we need total reverence. So my mission, not only with the podcast and my book, which I leave my own legacy, is to show that it takes a lot of hard work. It takes a dedication and perseverance to have the knowledge and the wisdom and to share that with others.
Mhm,
And also humility. Humility plays a very huge role in spirituality because with not taming the ego, you don't evolve spiritually. If you thrive on the trappings of the materialistic world, then you're not really doing, you're going backwards and not evolving as a spirit, because we are all spiritual beings having a human experience.
right. Being trapped
And
in
I did
this.
not come up with that quote.
Well,
It's been out
I-
there for a long time.
I'll attribute it
So,
to you.
but my quote, my true quote is, which is copyrighted because of the book, is that if you honor we honor our elders. As we honor our elders, we honor ourselves. And
Mhm.
so that is my philosophy, and I'm hoping that it could teach and enlighten the new seekers
Mhm.
and people like ourselves when we were starting out. Uh, I grew up in a pretty much the Catholicism.
Mhm. I did too.
It's
Yeah.
it's structure, but within the mysticism that Christian I write about that in my book. The Christian spirit, mysticism that each of the Abrahamic faiths have mysticism,
Mhm.
and
They
they
were
do, even
excised.
in Islam and Judaica
Mhm.
and also Christianity. So there
Mhm.
was, and it's also, spiritualism is not about religion; it's also personal gnosis. So
Mhm.
so that's something that, as an individual, you need to understand and develop, and it's all like my grandmother would always say: witchcraft is here.
Mhm.
This
Well,
is
they say
this
all
is
magic is
witchcraft right
mental.
here.
In the beginning, I think every newbie, they love the trappings. I would have to get dressed up like the Pope and say the mass and call the quarters and have all this litany and all this crazy stuff. And
Well,
now I can do it on the
we
crosstown
love it
bus.
all. We love the
Yeah,
ceremonial
but
magic, and we have the great history of the Golden Dawn,
mhm,
Aleister Crowley.
mhm.
even though the Rasputin, of Aleister Crowley and all that, his legendary controversial image, I have him in my book.
If you
Why?
think of the time that he existed in, he
Yeah.
was 19th century. There was a lot of repression. He was a lot of things that you shouldn't have been in the 19th century. So I kind of forgive him for a lot. I mean, I would have probably got high as a dog and, grabbed opium and did what I
Yes.
needed to do. I mean, it was not easy back then. Um, I
Well,
mean, not that it's,
that's great. That's each, personal gnosis and prerogative. But I believe that as an individual, like myself, I believe in balance. I think that, like Buddha went to one extreme to the other and found divinity within balance.
right.
So which are great masters.
Hmm.
So I do embrace all other faiths, Hinduism, Buddha. So
Hmm.
it's about humanity and the love for humanity.
Hmm.
That's what's important, and my mission of honoring our elders. So I think that this is a chance to bring the book to life, and it has. I'm totally beside myself how this book has been my COVID baby. It has it's born. It's a work in progress, but it's
Hmm.
being edited, and I'm waiting for a great friend of mine in Glastonbury, England. Her name is Sorita Dieste. She has her own publishing company and also a great author, a Hecatean high priestess. And so she's writing the afterword for me. And I'm so honored to have great elders in this book. Laurie Cabot wrote my foreword. I have Sorita Dieste. I have blurbs, which we call that are endorsements
Hmm.
from Ivo Dominguez, from Obronzel, Selena Fox. I
Hmm.
have from many others waiting.
Hmm.
Says Stephanie Gramasi. So I have a lot of great people,
Wow.
big wigs that are contributing to my book, and I'm very honored to and humbled by this project and also the development of my legacy. Leaving my legacy once that I'm gone.
That's a wonderful commitment, and not a lot of people are willing to make that commitment as you did. You have completely embraced your role, your spiritual role as high priest, and you are putting yourself out there and you are presenting this body of work that will inform people who might not have had access. I mean, when you think back to the early days of the magical child, everybody was there. Um, and these were like larger than life people.
Yes.
So you can go in and you could meet somebody. When I had the Zodiac Lounge, we had people coming in when it turned into a speakeasy after 10 o'clock. You never knew who was going to show up, and they were larger than life, and they were total characters. I mean, they were always on, and
I
everything was,
love the New York of yes, the grassroots of New
yeah.
York. I miss today because of technology. Of course, those brick and mortar shops that were once
Hmm.
such a hub, especially the Magical Child being the epicenter
Hmm.
of the occult world.
Absolutely.
So many personalities and celebrities used to, walk in and order.
Yeah.
So in my book, I'm not saying, but you'll find out who are those celebrities
Yeah.
and personalities and
Hmm.
dignitaries that actually would go into the Magical Child. And
Hmm.
so I carry that information in my book. And so there's Eddie Basinski always said that we are priests or priestesses of the people, of the streets.
Hmm.
So this is the importance of carrying out your own ministry within the pagan studies to deliver the right message, the guidance, and the love.
Hmm. There were so many people who were so forward and so out there. Many of them just sort of got involved in their own lives and sort of slipped away and faded away. But there were a few that remained, Rhea being one of them.
Correct.
Um,
That's why my
Laurie
push.
Cabot, of course. I mean,
Mhm.
she's she's like way in your face. Thank God that she's keeping the information accessible. Um,
88 years old and still
yeah.
teaching. She's online. She teaches her first and second
Hmm.
degree, and it is amazing. They have about maybe 50 to 55 people,
Hmm.
students that actually
Yeah, yeah.
join in online for her classes.
Hmm.
And so, yes, the importance of her, how she coined it,
Hmm.
witchcraft as a science, art, and religion.
Yeah. And then people like Margot Adler, who stayed prominent and was there for reference in in a very different way.
Margaret
Um,
Atwood.
Her story is pretty interesting. She was a DJ, and she was writing drawing down the moon, and she really had to be careful. She worked for a radio station, and she had to be very
She did.
careful back in those
Yeah,
days. And then I was fortunate enough, from what I understand, what I found out later, that it was one of the few people that she brought into her home, and I got to meet her son. She lived right around the corner and 2 blocks down from my store. And I had her, I used to do these fundraisers once a month, and we always tried to get someone who was prominent in the community to just come and speak to the crowd. And I did get a hold of her, and she remembered me from way back. And it's just interesting catching up how our lives have changed. And
I
she
would.
still brought it out onto the streets, but in a very, very different way. But the
She did.
philosophy was there. She was
She was a
amazing.
lady. She was a
Yeah.
lady, and I was looking at right now. I was actually looking for that book, Drawing Down the Moon.
Yeah.
But she signed it for me,
Ah,
and I love Margot. Margot was a New Yorker.
yeah.
She was a staple, an author, a
Mhm.
teacher. Margot was the first person I knew that we all had pagan ancestors, despite
Yeah.
our denominations. We
Right.
had pagan ancestors. She's the first one to coin that.
And she
Uh,
came from a pretty prominent family, so coming out
she
of the
did.
broom closet was a bit of a risk for her. And she just,
Oh yeah,
again,
very risky.
fearless. We were all fearless, and
Yeah,
that's kind of what I miss. But then we all, again, everything just sort of dissipated for a little while, and now it seems to be coming back into vogue. But the community has changed an awful lot. And
it
I
has.
admire you for coming out there and grabbing them by the ears and by the eyes with your book and with your podcast to let them know that there's some history here. This isn't something you just find
No, not
on.
my development. And also, I have my own cultural history because in my
Mhm.
book, it is chronologically the stepping stones of my life,
Mhm.
spiritual life, where I went through different traditional religious systems.
Mhm.
And so, from the Freemasons that were my parents, having that experience of that ceremonial magic and that
Mhm.
ritual and the palpable magic within the Great Hall that I wanted to portray in the book. And then I go on to various other African diaspora
Mhm.
traditions, such as Palo Monte and Lukumi Santeria, which is my own Creole. I actually am coining it in the book as Cuban Creole Lukumi rather
Okay.
than Cuban Lukumi because I want the reader to know that this is native to that country and to that island.
Mhm.
And it was the development of the slave trade, unfortunately, but
Right.
that's part of history,
Mhm.
and how the various cultures came to the island. And there was a huge portion of Nigerians that obviously gave way to what we have today, Santeria,
Mhm.
syncretized with the Catholic saints, and that's how it developed.
It was either that or get killed by your
Oh,
master.
get killed, and
Yeah.
even I think that the Spaniards were ruthless, and many of the historians that saved it in literature, and today we have films that show it of how they were ruthless to these people, but I would say that it gave way for the struggle of a culture and an ideology within the New World especially in the Caribbean.
Mhm.
And so this is something that I love. I actually, those are the two major chapters that I was fixing or tweaking, I would
Yeah.
say, with
Well,
the
there's a
editor
lot
today.
there. It's very complex and it's interesting because these are all Africans. The religion, Ifa, originally from Africa. You didn't know who you were standing next to on these boats coming over. You could be with somebody from a different province, but all of the African provinces had all of the places where they got their slaves from all had the same foundation in their religion. And then they come to the New World and they don't trust anybody. They didn't trust the people that
No,
sold them. They didn't trust the people that bought them. And now they have to put up with all kinds of craziness, especially Christianity, because back then it was even more judgmental and austere than it is today. So they could have paid, but many of them paid with their lives. So I would love to have been a fly on the wall because uh, how would you describe Shango? I mean, he's sort of like a real butch kind
Shango.
of.
I want to profess that Shango is not a person. Shango is an energy.
Mhm.
It is a natural force because in the structure of the ATRs, especially in Santeria Lukumi, precise, I would say that Shango is a force of nature and
Mhm.
an energy that we personify him as male.
Right.
There's different avatars,
Mhm.
which is diferentes caminos.
Mhm.
So there's different paths or
Mhm.
avatars, and then within that there are parables or
Mhm.
patakis that we call, which are stories,
Mhm.
legends, and so that is the moral of the story.
Right.
Those within those stories, there's the moral of that story, and so it's wonderful. So Chango is, yes, a force to be reckoned with, but he's more than that. So when one of the things that I wanted to state in my book is that when you have Santo is given because of necessity, because of
Mhm.
an ailment or
Mhm.
protection. What it basically is putting a guardian angel, a
Mhm.
guardian spirit,
Mhm.
with that action, with that staple of force that maybe you you are claimed by Shango, you were claimed by Yemaya or Chung
Mhm.
or Batala
Mhm.
or whatever. These are energy forces of
Mhm.
nature that we personify them
Mhm.
as deities.
Right.
And so that we say, Ire, Ilese Ocha, great blessings within Ocha, and there is no santo without spirit.
Right.
And hence why when you do Ocha, regla de Ocha, and you go through it, it's actually a blessing to protect or to save you from a great ailment. So today it's become like popular. Oh, I mean, I want to do Santo. Not necessarily you have to do Santo. It could actually be to your demise. A
Absolutely.
lot of people
Yeah.
don't know about how
Mhm.
when you dabble into the occult, you are taking a response. You need to be responsible
Mhm.
and have accountability
Yeah. And you
because
need to
it's
learn
not,
everything, dark and light, because you never know
and
who's
you
going to be
have to
coming
learn
after you.
dark and light.
Hmm.
Hence my book. My book is not love and light. My book has dark and light,
Hmm.
and I think will be loved by many, hated by some. I hope, I hope, because there are always naysayers out there.
They're still going to
And
be
so,
talking about you and naming you and your book title. So let them hate all they want. It's going to get somebody's attention. Well, my point about Shango, the simplistic expression, when I was being trained or educated in all of those traditions, they liken him to like a really tough street tough. Uh, that's the kind of energy it is. It's very explosive. It's just in your face, and he's a
it's
great
you're in your
protector.
face.
But then they have to honor him when they got to the New World. they wanted to honor him on his feast day, but they had to appropriate. They basically had to give him a gender reassignment because his feast day is the same as Santa Barbara. So
Correct.
they came up with a
September 4th, which
yeah.
is the feast day of the patron martyr saint
Hmm.
um, that has been canonized by the Catholic Church, which is Saint Barbara, which her father was pagan, a
Hmm.
pagan ruler and king. And because of her devotion and sacrifice towards Jesus Christ,
Hmm.
he put her into the tower,
Hmm.
and there was magic afoot with her.
Yep.
She was also a warrior. So there are many
Hmm.
portrayals of her and her white stallion and her
Hmm.
sword, as I
Hmm.
have here.
Ah.
And you can see this is an old
Oh wow.
60s.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is an old 60s depiction of Santa Barbara.
Hmm.
And it used to have a light, which one day I'll get it fixed, but I love it.
Hmm.
It's I grew up, my mother's patron saint at home. There was not, it was, we didn't have Jesus Christ. It was Saint Barbara. So the reverence towards female divinity always,
Hmm.
I grew up with, and it was so prominent at home. And
Well,
I
Catholicism
understood.
itself is female centric. I mean, there are more churches dedicated to Our Lady of something or other. On
Yeah.
the Rosary, there are 10 Hail Marys
Well,
to every Our Father.
they had to
The
because
great,
of
right,
the mass
right.
of our pagan brothers and sisters, of our ancestors,
Hmm.
that did not want to convert, and they had to come up. All Hallows Eve, you
Right.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Halloween that we have. Where does it come from? From the Gaelic word of Samhain,
Hmm.
or some would say Samhain, but it's
Oh,
Samhain,
yeah.
and it's the end of summer.
Yeah. And then right after that, the Catholics have All Saints Day and All Souls Day, which is
Exactly.
pretty much the same. Yeah.
And our Latin, forefathers that actually did processions and the magic, and there was magic everywhere, and people didn't know. They were abide by
Mhm.
the tenets and the dogma and the commandments and so forth. Yes, you need structure to control the masses, and it was done throughout those Abrahamic faiths
Mhm.
in the world. But we kind of lost it, but we didn't, because
Mhm.
now it's been resurfaced and
Mhm.
interpretized as the old religion that we have today.
Right. Now, you've made a great commitment to your position, to your training. You are a testament to your excellent training. Um, but also you've made a personal commitment to embody the role of cleric in your religion. You are fine with that. It's a lot of obligation, a lot of work. You're dedicated. You're more dedicated than anyone that I've met who has assumed this position. But
There's
what
the
about the
people out
people that
there.
don't
I'm no
want
more,
to
no
be?
less.
What about the people who don't want to be? They want to learn. They want to be able to utilize it in their life. I mean, if everybody was going to be a priest, there would be no congregations in the Catholic churches. They would be all priests. So, what about who are the people that are the congregation in this religion?
In the Cabot tradition.
No, no, no. The Catholic tradition, I mean, I have a church across the street. I see them crawling in every
No,
Sunday
no, in
morning.
the Cabot
Oh, and the
tradition.
Cabot tradition. No, not necessarily the Cabot tradition, but
In a
just
whole
in Wicca, in,
nutshell,
in
I,
general.
I
Yeah.
think I think there's wonderful people we
Mhm.
have in New York. We have Lori Bizzarro, who's a Hecate high priestess. She's still, she's a lawyer, and she's a outspoken Wiccan high priestess, and she's
Mhm.
wonderful. There's Lady Rears. There's Star Ravenhawk. We have great
Right. No,
elders.
they're priestesses and priests, but I'm
Yes,
saying, what about the lay people? What about the people that would come to their church? Every church has a congregation. If
we I
somebody is interested in learning this, do they have to become a priest or a priestess? I mean, I know
No,
the
not
answer, but our viewers might not.
necessarily. Like I have 30 years of nursing and also 23 years of surgical services.
Mhm.
I did when I was younger wanted to become a doctor, but not necessarily it happened. I chose another profession, which
Mhm.
is still in the forefront and as a frontliner, but still, not everybody is meant to be a priest or priestess,
Exactly.
a doctor or a nurse.
Hmm.
It's something that is a calling.
Hmm.
For me personally, I'm no more, no less. I am about female and male divinity, about the universe, the
Hmm.
all. So about magic, humanity, love. These are the things that I have passion for.
Hmm.
And so my ministry is important because of the legacy of Laurie Cabot.
Hmm.
The what I provide in renewal vows, weddings, funerals,
Hmm.
counseling. I do that on the side, and because of my heavy schedule, I have to be very selective.
Hmm.
And also now I am immersed with the book,
Yeah,
and
which
I
is going
and
to
I
be
want to and I
wonderful.
want to say to everyone, it's the title is called "Touched by the Goddess: Memoirs of a High Priest." And
Mhm.
soon the cover art will be done next month, and then
And you'll come
portrayed.
on and show us, and we will
Yes,
have
I'll come
we'll have a
back.
hot link to
Yes,
buy it.
we will.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
will.
yeah. Now,
And
one thing I do want to
definitely.
point out is that unlike the organized religions in the Christian, Judaic, and Islamic construct, there's a difference between like those religions are liturgical. We go there, we listen to the priest or the authority figure share the liturgy. But a lot of the pagan religions are ecstatic, where there is a personal connection with the Godhead. So it's pretty much like um, if we want to use Catholicism as a comparison, it's like being a Roman Catholic, but also being able to say the Mass in your own home. It's not only the priest that get to do it, but if you want to take a leadership role and groom and embrace and develop a congregation and to be there for them, then you would need to step up. But it's the kind of thing where everybody can learn the rituals. Everybody who has been trained and initiated is able to perform the rituals without stepping into the official role of authority figure within that construct.
Correct. The spiritual leader is the responsibility, the accountability, and you have
Right.
to have the proper foundation. You can't not be, have some schooling and then you write a book and you
Mhm.
think you know it all. You have to have humility and know that, and be in your 30s. So you have these millennials today that think that they know it all and they are the all and end of. And so it's not about that. It's their development is okay. It's great that they're writing a book, they're doing what they're doing, but
Mhm.
they have to have the humility for their own spiritual evolution.
I
And
don't.
I can't stress much more than that because um, we do tend to feed the ego,
Mhm.
and we need to. And one thing is self-esteem, and the other is ego. You need to balance that and know and have it in check
Mhm.
and have that humility because you will seek the rewards from it,
Mhm.
and not a lot of people know that. And
Oh yeah.
you get with the trappings of jealousy and envy, and there's no need for that. Don't look at
Mhm.
others, look at
Well,
yourself and what you could provide for yourself and for the community.
in
That's a true leader.
defense of millennials, which you'll never hear me say very often, I do have to say that we are the elders that they need to stand tall, that our shoulders, they need to stand on our shoulders. We kind of made them that way. By
Yes, I
so now
think
it's our
we have.
responsibility to go back and
Not
educate.
me. I
You're
didn't make.
writing a book. What do you
I
think you're
didn't have.
doing?
I didn't have. I don't have kids, but
Oh, I forgot
no,
to
I,
have
I
kids
understand what
too. It
you
was
say. It's a generational,
right.
um, process that
Yeah.
yes, we are at fault to what their
Right. We made their
the
lives very
outcome is.
easy and we made everybody was a star and nobody had to endure any hardships. We didn't want them to endure
No,
what we had to endure. and look at them now. So even though I never, I mean, people say, you don't have kids? What? No, why not? Oh, I forgot. It was the 80s. I mean, also, I'm gay as hell. But as part of this generation, part of my obligation is to be patient and go back and say, hey, you might want to, when you get done writing your bestseller, you might want to read this book or that one and bring the information to them because I don't think it's too late. If we just say screw you and walk away from them, it'll be a disaster in another generation. So it's almost like
Yeah,
we have
no,
to
it's the guidance.
salvage.
Yes,
We have
that's
to
my
make
mission.
ourselves available. And then then they can reference what we've learned. And we have so many wonderful stories to share with them. Uh,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Hence the my book, and as
Mhm.
as an individual who is on this path with pagan studies and
Mhm.
leadership within spiritual role, I think that I'm trying my best and the hardest to provide that through my
Mhm.
podcast, through the book, through my interactions, and also communal energies
Mhm.
that I provide.
Mhm.
It's, that's how we gathered at the immigrant.
Yeah. 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 Now, we're going to have to wrap pretty soon because we're coming up to an
Yes, I
hour and
think
we got to
so.
keep. But if anybody has any questions, raise your hand. If anybody's out there and has any questions, we do have a couple of people in there. And if not, we can also ask you when we distribute the link for the playback on my regular scheduled night that you can reach us through contact at esoteric.nyc. But there's so much more that I'd like to talk to you about, but time is flying.
Yes.
And also, I would love to have you back on when your book is ready. Wait, we have something in chat. No questions, but just to say this was an amazing discussion. Thank you, Jacqueline. That was Jacqueline Christina,
Hi,
uh,
Jacqueline.
one of my one of my dearest. She's very dear to me in many ways. We've been working
Uh,
together in many different modalities, and I'm
Blessings, Jacqueline.
very
That's
happy
very nice.
she was able to attend. But so I would like to have you back again at your discretion and at your leisure. If there's something that you want to,
That's why we're doing. I thank you for actually committing to my schedule because when your show is on, I'm actually sleeping to wake
yeah,
up
yeah,
at 3 in the morning.
yeah.
I
But I'm
have to
so
be in the
excited for you. I'm
hospital.
excited
Yeah, I
about
have to
your
be in the
book.
hospital at 6 o'clock. So it's quite difficult, and
Yeah.
I'm happy that you were able to arrange this. And yes, and this is something for those who are interested. The book is Touched by the Goddess, Memoirs of a High Priest. You could contact me on all the social medias because now I'm on TikTok and everywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks to my lovely dear secretary slash friend Layla Florin. And so we have
And your website. You
and
have
my
a website,
website
alexandercabot.com.
alexandercabot.com. So anybody who wants to contact me could actually go on the website. There's a lot of information there, my bio and the
Great pics of
podcast.
you. Great pictures of you too.
Thank
Just
you, thank
amazing
you, thank you.
photographs on there.
Yes,
So,
dear, great photographers we have. We have Yeva of Witches of New York, another one. Anybody
uh-huh.
who's interested to go on her blog, video blog in YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
and Witches of New York. There's
Mm-hmm.
Richie Santana, great photographers out there that
Mm-hmm.
are like-minded. And
Hear
so
that?
there's
All of my clients from the Metropolitan Opera and all my clients who are actors that need headshots, go there.
yes, yes,
Go there.
definitely,
She's amazing.
definitely.
It's
She
magic.
is amazing.
Yeah, and it's only
So
with a
yes,
camera.
I contribute to her video blog
Mm-hmm.
that she has on YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
and I think the latest has been the 7 Hermetic Principles from
Mm-hmm.
the Kybalion.
Mm-hmm.
So I was happy to do that for her.
Yeah, and for all of you who have fallen in love with Alexander Cabot tonight, catch him on This Old Witch. Give them the info again. We'll get your numbers.
This old witch podcast. You could look it up on Facebook, YouTube. It's on Spreaker, iTunes, everywhere. I don't know. Eddie's the one who controls
Mm-hmm.
everything else, but I have my own things to do. But I want to say thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to having the book and tangibly so I could present it to you next time. And within that note, I just wanted to say, be a light unto darkness so you may be the balance of the universe. Blessings to all.
Amen. Thank you, Alexander. Thank you all, and to
Blessed,
all a good night.
blessed be.